that is what they managed to do coming out of the kind of disastrous ending of Revolution. I mean, we talked about this plenty over on Monday, so you can listen to that show. But I think they did end up actually using my suggestions on which way to take it. Actually, I think both ends of the segment, both Jon Moxley's side and Omega's side, roughly did what I thought that was probably the best way given the situation, and that's the way it ended up going. We have lots to talk about on this show, given we have some big changes within the heel face landscape of AEW. We nailed down a heel turn. We have what pretty much looks like a face turn. We have some factions shuffling up. We have some factions building up, and a brand new faction coming up as well. So I thought this show, even though they only had 4 matches, which is less than usual. Usually they at least have 5. 5 tends to be more often than not. I probably put having 5 matches, like 80% of the shows probably have 5 matches. I think I think there's probably only been maybe 3 or 4 shows that have had less than 5 matches, and a handful that have had 6. But what wrestling we had was good. Plus, I think all the other stuff was entertaining, and by the time the final match happened, I looked at the clock and I was like, holy crap, I can't believe it's already this late. So this show ended up flying by. Oh, wait a minute. No, we did have 5 matches. I did not bold the header of that. So never mind. We did have 5 matches. One of them was basically a squash. So, but overall, I thought this was a really fun show. It flew by. There was a couple down points. There's a couple plot holes that we have to talk about, but that's how it goes. You can't avoid them, given how the landscape works in general, considering that you're writing 52 weeks of TV a year, basically that week, almost that week. I mean, sure, there's plenty of planning, but you're gonna have a problem when you're producing 104 hours of story every year, plus another whatever the paper, another 16 hours worth of pay-per-views. So I mean, that's a lot. 120 hours worth of storytelling in a year. That's just tons.
120 hours of Dynamite, and they actually have a decent amount of content, and I would say a good amount of content on Dark, but also less than Dynamite, but still story development, right? They've still got stuff that feeds into angles. So I mean, really, you're talking about over 150 hours of television that they produce, and I mean, these are just the things that we see on air, right? We see 100 and whatever it would be, 150 something hours. We really don't even know how much time goes into the behind the scenes production, the ideas that come up that maybe don't make it to television. So I mean, this is a huge undertaking, and for this, and I mean, I laugh now because I'm realizing I never gave this much grace to WWE before, but of course they are a much larger and more established company. But to be honest, for even just the majority of storylines to really make sense looking back, it's a real big undertaking. So honestly, I'm totally fine with how everything went down tonight. I thought it was last night. I thought it was a good show for sure, but I thought there were a couple things that let me down a little bit. Kind of right back to what I would say is a normal Dynamite, which is, in my opinion, like a B+ to A- sort of show. So I would say we're right back in that B+ range for me. But because, as I mentioned previously, oftentimes before a pay-per-view, for me, they really ramp it up, in my opinion. But yeah, right back to a good Dynamite, but highlighted by some really interesting storyline developments.
Yeah, and usually, like, after a pay-per-view, it tends to be a heavily reset show. So basically, they reset and shuffle things around and kind of set up to where they're going for their next big shows. I'm sure there's going to be a big Dynamite between now and Double or Nothing. Double or Nothing tends to be at the end of May. I think it's Memorial Day weekend. I think they are planning on going this year. So, yeah. So we have all that to come out, and overall, yeah, I thought this was a good show as well, and moved plenty of story along. And sometimes you just need to take the time to push those stories along. Though they did pack a ton on the show. And sometimes I think they just need to kind of take it a little lighter. And if they're going to push so much story, then I'm okay if they dropped it down to 4 matches just to push everything around where they need to. As long as it's entertaining, then I don't have a problem with it. But if it just drags on and drags on, that's where you hit the roadblock. And I guess we'll see where it goes from there.
Sure.
All right, so let's set up the show here. You are watching or listening to That's Wrestling, and if you're listening to this as a podcast, we do this show live both on Twitch and on YouTube. You can follow the link in the show notes for that. If you're watching this later on VOD, you can snag this as a podcast on all your favorite podcast apps, and if you can't find it on your favorite podcast app, head over to thatswrestling.com. You can snag the RSS feed over there. Comments, question, feedback, you can leave those to Eric at thatswrestling.com or drop them on the bottom of the video on YouTube. Follow us at That's Wrestling 1 with the number 1 over on Twitter. We've been trying to up our game a little bit. I tweeted a little bit last night during Dynamite, but you tweeted all throughout the show on Sunday. So, you know, maybe we'll get a little bit more engagement over there. And there's a link for a Discord. You can come hang out with us. A lot of us are in there pretty much all the time. I get notifications to my phone anytime anybody types anything. So I am always there. Head over to your favorite podcast app. Give us a review. And with me tonight, I have, as always, Caleb Johnson, without video because he's hot spotting and he only has so much bandwidth, and it starts to sound really, really bad if we try to block it up with taking video on it. You're going to be moving in a few weeks, so you'll be off the show for a couple weeks while you get settled in, and hopefully at your new place you'll have solid internet and we'll be back to normal.
Yeah, I will definitely have much better internet because that's something I have control over. One thing I do want to try, and we'll see how it goes, but I'd like to try to set up my corner of the office in a little bit more of a, not studio-esque, but you know what I mean, with like proper lighting and really get my mic. I'm looking into getting a mic arm as well, so that way it doesn't have to rest on the desk. So a couple little accessories here and there.
You'd be surprised. Do you have a shock mount on yours?
I do not.
Yeah, you'd be surprised how much a shock mount, when you're like listening, suddenly how much goes away once you have a shock mount. It's insane. Because I used to have this mic on my desk and it didn't have a shock mount, and I could hear the buzzing from my computer that is also on the desk. But as soon as I put it on a shock mount, gone. Like, so much noise disappears. It's insane. Not that you're noisy, but you're fine.
No. I know what you mean. Yeah, I am looking at getting a little bit more stuff so I can just improve the quality of the show overall.
Alrighty, so let's get into this show. They kicked off the show with Matt Jackson versus Rey Fenix. They say, hold on tight. After this match, we will hear from Eddie Kingston and Jon Moxley regarding the ending of Revolution. So they didn't go straight into dealing with the fallout. They gave us this really good match to kind of take our mind off things before they go into the story. This was a really fun match. I mean, it's Matt Jackson and Rey Fenix. I don't know how you couldn't have a good match between these two. We actually had a lot of mat work throughout the beginning of this, lots of exchanging of holds. They showed SCU, Kazarian and Daniels up in the stands talking about how they're ranked number 1. It kind of sounds like they will probably be the next title shot after Death Triangle gets their shot. We have a lot of back and forth from Matt Jackson and Rey Fenix. They do the spot where Fenix is pulled up to the top rope, but when he goes for the Rana on Matt turns it into a power bomb off the top. Fenix flies around like he always does. Springboard spin kick and then a springboard missile drop kick, rolling cutter. Matt teases a suplex out on the stage, but ends up coming back into the ring using a destroyer. Fenix immediately rolls out of the ring to avoid any pin attempt, and then Matt runs after him, hits a destroyer on the floor, and makes him answer a 10 count. Pac makes sure that Fenix gets back in. He kind of smacks the floor in front of him to kind of like wake him up so he makes the 10 count. Matt hits a top rope elbow drop when he gets in and puts on the sharpshooter. Fenix gets out of it, and Matt has been set up kind of leaning back against the bottom rope with Nick behind him talking, and Fenix goes for a basement drop kick. Matt moves out of the way. Fenix flies between the ropes and ends up drop kicking Nick, who goes back into the barricade and falls down, and Pac kind of starts making his way, walking over to Nick. So Matt rolls to the outside, gives him a super kick. Then Matt and Fenix fight in the ring. Matt hits 2 super kicks on Fenix. Fenix does this great kip up into a super kick and then collapses after that second one. I love that spot. I love the sudden burst after getting smacked with something, but then just collapsing after they're delivered. That's one of my favorite spots.
That's a personal favorite for mine as well. And I think you see that a little bit more in New Japan most often, is especially toward the end of a really strong match. You'll have someone really get hit by, a signature move or something, immediately power through and hit something else on the other guy, but then both are wiped out, and the first guy who got hit by that first move just completely collapses, and he's like, I don't know where that energy came from, and now no one's really being covered, even though it'd be a great moment for a cover from either competitor, So, yeah, I do love that spot.
Yeah, Kyle O'Reilly is really good at this spot.
Yes.
He's also really good at that spot where you think it's going to happen, and he puts up his hands, and then he just, faints. I love that spot. Yeah. I love that spot so much.
Him on YouTube doing that exact spot, which is just puts his hands up, they just stare at him, and then he just collapses.
And I love, actually, I don't remember who, I think it was against Nia Jax where Ronda Rousey did that spot.
I don't remember that one.
I know Ronda Rousey did that spot. I just don't remember who it was against, but it was great when she did it too. Let's see. So they slowly get back up. They're throwing hands as they're standing up. They super kick each other at the same time into the legs. So they end up kicking each other's foot. Matt picks up Fenix for a tombstone. Fenix reverses backwards out of it, hits apeshit, and gets the victory. I have not seen him use that. I know that's not I know that's the name that Tamatonga names it. I'm not sure what another name is for it.
I don't either, but yeah, a lot of fun. And one of the notable things I took away from it was a fun match, right? It was good, but nothing crazy out of the ordinary for me for these two guys. But two things that popped into my brain is one. This is Rey Fenix getting a win over both Young Bucks. He defeated Nick Jackson, last year?
Yeah.
So he actually has a singles win over both the Young Bucks, which totally now is just a fun little long-term storytelling tool moving into their tag team match for the belts, because obviously Rey Fenix and Pac are the number one contenders here. So that's a lot of fun. And then the second thing that I thought was less to do with the match, but more to do with the pacing of the show, I thought it was very cool of AEW, especially from a ratings perspective, to put this on first instead of an immediate explanation of what happened on Sunday. And then through the beginning of the show, and even during the course of this match, during low points, the commentators were saying, hey, right after this, we're going to hear from Moxley and Kingston. So it really kind of anyone who tuned in wanting to know what happened had to wait through the match, and you don't know how long the match is going to be, right? They didn't say at the top of the hour we will hear. They just said whenever this match finishes, we're going to go straight to Kingston and Moxley. So anyone tuning into AEW has to watch the first quarter, basically. And this match strategically went about, the match didn't quite go that long, but by the time the Moxley promo started, you were starting second quarter. So I actually thought that this was really kind of intellectual, I guess, on Dynamite's part.
Yeah, and they seem to always do it this way anyways. They almost always go directly into a match, and then we get the like rundown of the card. What I would really like to see is instead of having have the rundown of the card, but also have like the recap video go there, because then you can catch everybody that has trickled in after the beginning of the hour. So, you know, if you put the recap video right at the beginning, anybody who wasn't tuned in as immediately as the show starts misses it. And I think that would actually be the spot to put like a recap video of, you know, whatever's going to play out later on in the night, cover, you know, the quick little backstories on everything, so everybody is up to speed. And that's one thing I don't care if they put it there or if they put it at the beginning of the show, but they need a recap, you know, a previously on video, which they almost never do, and I think that is a huge miss.
Yeah, I agree. I think that that's something that they could be doing a lot better with, especially post pay-per-view. You really don't have to do a whole pay-per-view recap, because, I mean, that's going to take the point out of people buying. But realistically, you should have maybe even, I think WWE does like stills.
Yeah.
They'll like play some of the announcing and just show some photos or something.
Mm-hmm.
But you do want some sort of recap, especially of your major story beats. Like, it's not even just the results. It's, you know, what happened, what was alluded to. Just give us a quick synopsis.
Yeah. I mean, every other show that has a running storyline, we always get a previously on. So I don't know why we don't get it for wrestling. I mean, when I used to watch WWE, they do it most weeks. They do some sort of recap of the previous shows.
I agree, but I also think, and maybe this is the way they're thinking, maybe not, but to be fair, you don't see it in a basketball game, right? You don't get a basketball game that's like, hey, last week, you know, the Pacers beat so-and-so, and now they're going to go up for this, you know, championship. They're going to be in the playoffs. And I mean, so you kind of do during playoffs, but like, you don't get that kind of beats. And I mean, I think AEW is striving for a more sports driven approach. And basically, like, if you didn't see what happened, then you kind of got to get on the internet and see what happened. You know what I mean? They're not going to give it to you like it's some sort of drama.
Yeah, but but basketball is less comparable. If we go to something more comparable like boxing and MMA, they do cover what happened previously between various combatants all the time.
They do, but I also think that's because they've been influenced by pro wrestling. I don't think they historically have. I think that promos and those sort of video packages hyping up the story, I really do think that, like, UFC, for instance, has drawn a lot of inspiration from WWE.
Yeah, but I think it works, and that's the thing.
The choice that they're making, you know what I mean? So, I mean, because they obviously have the resources and the ability to really make good reviews, good synopsis, you know, good video packages. So that's something that obviously is within their wheelhouse, but they're just not putting on TV, and they're making that choice on purpose, I imagine.
All right. I don't know where they ran down the card. I didn't note it. But anyways, we do go to the Eddie Kingston and Moxley. They are sitting on a couch in front of a cool coffee table that has a tiny little gas fire pit in the middle of it. I kind of want that thing now. These guys are so good. Eddie does use the cover of him passing out from anxiety. He says, you know, it's a little embarrassing, but I don't care what you think. I thought all these explosions were going to go off, and when that happened, I had these flashbacks of when I was in jail waiting for court, the guards telling me, you're going to go to Sing Sing, boy. You're going to go to Rikers, boy. And I just blacked out. And Moxley is talking about, I don't believe Kenny, I thought he was really going to blow us up, and I think that was his intention, and it just didn't work. They say that Impact must have paid for the bomb. Moxley's like, hey, when you got the bomb, did the box say Acme on the side of it? And he says, while I didn't get the championship back, I did get a drinking buddy back. And he has a little back and forth with Eddie saying, I knew that wasn't you. I knew that wasn't you. And Eddie's like, world championships do strange things to people, referring back to their feud over the championship. Moxley says, Kenny, Good Brothers, if you're going to flash a weapon, you better use it.
Yeah, I thought this was so much fun. A couple comments on this. Eddie Kingston could sell a brush to a bald man. Like, he sat there and told me he passed out because he's got anxiety. And I was just like, yeah, you do. And I'm never going to question you about it again. It's basically exactly what we talked about during the review when I mentioned, he basically said, like, if any of you have a problem with this explanation, step up. And I was like, right on. Like, no problem, bro. They explained it right away. They won't talk about it again. I did think it was interesting that there's a little bit of disagreement between Kingston and Moxley. Kingston thinks that Kenny did this on purpose and that he was trying, like, just being sick and trying to mess with him.
Yep.
And Moxley thinks that he legitimately was trying to build a good bomb and failed.
Right.
So that was even fun that they have a little bit of disagreement still. But these two, man, just like, there was a part where Moxley was just like, but I mean, you could have come out a little sooner because I was out there getting my butt beat and they were throwing, rubbing barbed wire in my eyes. And he's like, you could have come out there, but you got to look good for TV. And Eddie's sitting there like, well, bro, I got to get my Timbs on. I got to look good. This is pay-per-view, man. Like, I can't look stupid on pay-per-view. And he's just like, I was dying out there. I just thought it was like a really funny interplay. Just give me more Moxley and Eddie. And this is a great way for them to go to. And I know I've already espoused my favorable views on this storytelling because I love this. I love the pairing. I love the storytelling they did at the end of Revolution. But another great positive for this is it really gives Moxley something fun to do away from the title. If he's not taking time off immediately, him and Kingston, I mean, put them up against the Bucks, like get them in the tag team scene, or maybe even if they're not doing a tag team scene, if like Eddie, for instance, kind of comes up on his own feud, Moxley can be his second. You know what I mean? So it really gives Moxley some fun things to do.
Yeah, well, it also sets him up for Good Brothers. Good Brothers versus, well, we're going to have that next week. So, I mean, that's kind of, that kind of ended up going straight into that. I thought they were going to hold that off for a little bit because I figured that's where they go. And obviously Mox is not taking that much time, is not taking time off right now. Everybody was obviously speculating, this is kind of where it was going, but we were talking about it's way early, considering Renee still has like 4 more months to go before the baby pops out. So it's a little early to take off now when you assume he's going to take at least a couple weeks once the baby has arrived. So, we'll see. Did you, before we get any farther, did you see Christian Cage on Renee's podcast?
I did not watch it. I saw that he was on it, and I heard, I think 2 or 3 different like clips of like 3 or 4 minutes each, but not the entirety. I didn't listen to all of it.
Okay, it's not big. I just wanted to say, just because we mentioned Renee, that Christian Cage was on her podcast, and it's up on YouTube for people who want to see it. Really good interview, a lot of good stuff. Didn't go into huge detail on why he did not re-sign with WWE. Mostly it sounds like just talks fell through and AEW's thing came together super quick. He also mentioned that the segment on Dynamite where Paul White said that there was a big signing coming, he hadn't actually signed anything yet, and he was surprised that happened. You all right over there?
Yeah, sorry, I was just throwing something away.
Okay.
I thought that was a very interesting point that he didn't really realize. So, I mean, they were obviously confident that he was interested. The other thing about the WWE thing, it sounds like he expressed to WWE that he wanted to work a full-time schedule. Mm-hmm. And I don't know if they were ready to do that with him.
Yeah. All right, so we move on from clearing that up, at least on the Eddie Kingston Moxley side. So we have their side of the story, so that covers that. And then we go to Cody Rhodes versus some guy named Seth. He gives a weight belt to a handicapped kid in the crowd who they had a little spot for him down on the floor, so he got a nice up close seating. It was a squash. Cody taps him out with the figure 4, and that was not really the story of this segment. Anything, at least for that section.
Yeah, that was definitely not the story. The story was coming. Although, one thing that I thought of, this guy's name is Seth, and some random dude. Didn't they used to do this? I don't know if they did or not, but didn't back in the day during the old school Wednesday Night Wars with WCW, didn't they sometimes have squash matches with jobbers, and the jobbers' names would be like eerily similar to like main guys from the other company? I just thought it'd be funny if this guy's name was like Seth Rawlings or something. I just thought that'd be kind of funny and just have him completely squashed. But I was just like, I wonder if they ever did that back in like WCW or ECW or any of those.
I'm sure they did. They always took little pot shots at.
I thought that'd be funny. Although I know people complain because people don't like to see AEW take a lot of pot shots.
Yeah, I found it. It was Seth Gargis.
Gargis.
Gargis. Gargis.
Seth Gargis from Huntsville, Alabama.
Yep. So the big thing is Tony comes down to the ring post-match, and he wants to talk to Cody about his shoulder. How you feeling? Cody says, let's talk about the shoulder. Let's talk about losing the ladder match at Revolution. And then Penta, who is up on Spanish commentary, cuts in, tells him to shut up. He has Alex Abrahantes translate for him, and he says, Cody, Penta says he's 1,000 times better than you, and he says if you're the Prince of Pro Wrestling, then he's the Lord of Lucha Libre. And then Penta says, let me speak in your language. At Revolution, you lost. If it was me and you in the ring, you would lose more than just the match. And then he has Alex translate the last of it. You're lucky that he didn't attack your arm anymore, because he would have hurt it so bad you'd be unable to pick up your newborn baby girl. And this sends Cody in a frenzy. He runs out. They basically have a pull apart brawl, and they set up the match with Penta and Cody, which is happening next week. Why is it happening next week? I don't know. This seems to be like something that should build for at least a couple weeks here. Plus, why did Cody freak out when he knew exactly what Penta was doing, that Penta was gonna try to rile him up? He fell into his trap.
Yeah, this was like, all right, Cody and Penta is something I'm so down for. I'm like, absolutely, two of my favorites. Like, I could see this being either a one-off or like a longer maybe feud that could go on for a few months. But this was also like the most WWE thing that they've done in a while.
Yeah,
it just felt so like unnatural, and like Penta's not a bad promo. Like, he's definitely not bad, but just the presentation of it just felt a little weird. And like, you knew they were going to go like somewhere like Penta was just going to say something so heel that he just had to go chase him. You know what I mean? And he did. And I was like, I don't know. It was a little cheesy for me, honestly, but like, it also leads to Penta and Cody. So I'm like, I don't mind that at all. You know what I mean? So it's one of these weird things. I thought the way we got there was a little weird, but I'm sure it'll be a fun match.
I mean, up until the last line, I thought it was good. I would have liked them to have shown Penta coming out to sit at the Spanish commentary before the match happened, or even just showed him on Spanish commentary in general.
Right.
So we know he was there, because it felt so like sudden. It's like, wait, where? Oh, he was on Spanish commentary. And like, yeah, that's one thing. It's like, probably should have showed him first.
Yeah, I agree, but I also didn't like. It didn't take me too long to realize why. Like, yeah. I saw him there, especially with Alex, and I put two and two together. But I mean, some viewers might not really know. First of all, they might not really know who Alex Abrahantes is, and two, they might not have just put together that was Spanish commentary. But I really like Penta, dude. Penta in the mask and the suit. He looked like a baller. I was like, this guy is gonna he's gonna mess you up, Cody. This guy's awesome. And again, I did think he was good on the mic. I just thought the content was a little cheesy, a little weird, and the outcome of the segment was pretty predictable.
Sure. We go on to continuing this feud. Orange Cassidy and Chuck Taylor are in an arcade. Orange Cassidy is just like sleeping in the chair of a racing game. And Chuck says, "Boys, we've been at this too damn long. You broke my best friend. You made me your butler. You put me through a window. You hurt my boy Orange Cassidy here." And he says he wants one more match and says that he'll do whatever they want. If he loses, he'll be his butler. He'll be Miro's butler forever. He says Orange Cassidy came up with a great idea. We're going to take these video games that you love so much and place them around the ring. I'm going to put you through every one of them. Orange Cassidy says, stands up and says after he takes his glasses off, "And then we will break you."
Yeah, this was this was disappointing because I thought the feud was over, and it's not. So we're going to keep going, and we're going back to the video games. So this was kind of a low point for me.
Yeah, I was hoping the feud was over and the partnership of Miro and Kip Sabian was on the way out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, but maybe they're using this as a vehicle to get there, question mark? I mean, possibly.
All right. You took notes on the Sting segment, so I'll set you up here. Tony's on the stage with Sting. Surprise, surprise. Sting says Darby is a dangerous man, likes to take risks, and then Lance Archer is the I started to type and Team Taz interrupt, and I'm like, oh wait a minute, no, it's Lance Archer who interrupts this one.
All right, couple notes about this. Sting comes out, does like a miniature version of his normal entrance, but because Shivani's already up outside the tunnel with a mic, when Sting does his like caw or whatever he does, you just hear him go, "Ah!" It was so stupid because usually that whole little like hand to mouth shout is like drowned out by his music, and in your head you get the sound effect of, if you're me, I don't know about you guys, but if you're me, you get the sound effect that they've used for him previously, like the caw of like a crow. And like, I'm like, oh, it always like, it doesn't give me chills, but it makes me excited when he does that. And like, I wish he wouldn't say anything and just come out and do his little, like he's yelling something. But because he was there with the mic, you just heard Sting yell. And it sounded really silly. So yeah, he comes out, he starts to talk to Shivani, sets him up and says, hey, this was a really dangerous match and whatnot. Sting, for all that is good, Sting, just like, please stop, because I again love the guy, but he just sounds so, I don't know what the word is. Just like, I don't know if it's not unprepared, but like basically he sounds like Surfer Sting when he talks, which is probably why Surfer Sting was a gimmick in the first place. So he's asking him about the match, and Sting is saying, well, Darby's a bad guy and I'm a bad guy, and when you put us in a venue that's cool and dangerous like the streets, he's like, then everyone gets a win. Darby gets a win. Stinger gets a win. Everybody wins. And I'm just like, can you shut up? It was so bad. So then he's about to go on and just, keep talking nonsense. And Lance Archer comes out, and Lance, before you ever see him, you hear him on the mic. He's obviously got a mic back in Gorilla. And he says something to the effect of, and I'm paraphrasing here, it's time for my time because you need to stop having time, and I'm going to take time if I'm not given time. And he said time like 5 times. And then he says something like, how did he phrase it? It was actually all right. Like that last end, I didn't like him saying time like 100 times. Now I have to say times based on how many times he said time. It's like Inception over here. But he does kind of make a cool comment that basically he's going to start taking time from other people. And this kind of felt like a weird thing for someone coming out of the face tunnel to say, if you ask me. I thought that was weird. But he does essentially say that he's going to be taking TV time when he's not afforded any. So I thought that was kind of interesting. And as he's starting to back off, he's in the middle of his like final cool sentence, and Jake Roberts just grabs his hand, pulls the mic toward him, and says, "See ya, Stinger." I was just like, can you shut up? This whole segment was so strange. And then, but then what was cool is that Lance Archer was in the middle of like saying something cool and threatening sounding, and I think it ended with like my time, like I will have my time or something like that. And he's like, I will have, and then Roberts grabs the mic, goes, see you, Stinger, and then Lance just goes, my time. And that effect was kind of neat, that like he just finished the sentence he was saying anyway. But I have no clue why Jake was like reaching for the mic, and the only thing he said was, see you, Stinger. I was just like, that wasn't even like cool. I thought you had something like to input, and he's literally just saying Stinger. So then Lance Archer finishes the line. He's like, my time. And then they walk back down the face tunnel. Tony was like, well, I'm so sorry, Sting. Like, well, we can continue. And Sting just basically says, well, that's all right, Tony. And he kind of like, his gaze follows them down the tunnel. And he goes, I'll see you on the next one. And he just like completely walks out on Tony. Tony, for the first time and not the last time tonight, looks like a total nerd.
Oh, yeah. This was again, I don't need to see Sting every week. I didn't need to see Sting this week. And this did nothing at all. There was no reason for Sting to be in this segment at all. No reason whatsoever.
There's no reason on a more macro level. There's also no reason to immediately jump into another Sting feud.
Right.
Like, why not give the guy a few weeks and then be like, hey, it's been 3 weeks since we heard from Sting. He'll be on the show tonight, and then set him up something. But like, it's literally 4 days later. You've got him back on the show and you're setting something else up for him. Like, I don't know. Now, I don't mind the Lance Archer feud if that's what they're going to do with Sting. That's cool. But like, Sting's never not going to be a babyface in AEW. And Archer's a face also, to my understanding. He came out the face tunnel, but this was a very unface act to interrupt the legend and interrupt people and say, I'm taking my time when I demand it. So this whole thing just had weird vibes for me.
Yeah. All right, we move on. QT Marshall and Lee Johnson are with Dasha. Dasha's asking QT about his freak out on Revolution and walking out on his partner. QT says the emotions got the best of him, but he's not here to talk about that. He'll address that at another time. Tonight is about Lee Johnson. That was it.
Yes, that's exactly what it was.
Then we have Ethan Page versus Lee Johnson. Ethan Page has an inset, which I think you took down.
Yeah, this was actually kind of funny. Like, it was very, very short, but he basically said, when I got here, I was told that after my debut in the, Face of the Revolution ladder match, that I would have a guaranteed singles match to really truly debut, kind of. And he goes, but now QT Marshall's coming out here with Lee Johnson, which means I have 33.3% less spotlight. So I thought that was kind of funny. To be fair, by the way, this promo or inset was very low. The audio on this was hard to hear. I had to turn up my my volume almost all the way up just to be able to hear him here. So just yet another small production issue that I think could be fixed, because that's not the first time that's happened.
Which platform were you on?
I'm sorry?
What platform were you on?
I was on TNT.
Okay. There was issues with TNT's feed.
Yes, there was. So when I actually had to go rewatch this, because the first time I watched it on TNT, the second time I watched it, I just found the clip on the internet. Okay. But the first time I watched it on TNT, the audio was bad. They somehow crossed wires and were playing both the audio for TNT, for AEW, and audio from a basketball game, because there were chants of defense and squeaky sneakers. And that lasted for a solid probably 5 minutes.
I was in the chat on our Discord. Link is in the description if you want to come hang out. And you like that segue? And Daryl's like, "What the hell is going on? The sound is totally jacked." I was watching on Fight, and it was perfectly fine. I had no problems whatsoever. So that would indicate to me that it was not AEW. It was Turner all the way on screwing that one up, because the feed to Fight was perfectly fine.
Right.
And
issues. Actually, AEW uploaded those clips onto their YouTube as soon as the show was over.
Yeah. So yeah, it was fine on my end. Anyways, we get to the match. This is what I wrote. This is the first sentence I wrote down. The match has been going on for 5 minutes. Nothing really to say about it. that is fair. And then the next sentence was probably written out 2 minutes later. This match is really meh. Formulaic Lee Johnson starts to make his comeback the moment they come back from commercial. Paige hits the Ego's Edge, which is just a razor's edge, and gets the win. Didn't need to go this long at all.
Didn't need to go through commercial either.
Right.
This was like, come on, just let them, because this was, in my opinion, a poor choice of an opponent. Like, Ethan Page should have faced Seth. You know what I mean? Like, you should have had that guy come out and just completely destroy him. But instead, they get him Lee Johnson, who they're trying to give like a little mini push to. Had his first win on Dynamite, I think, 4 weeks ago, and has been actually winning a couple different matches, I think, on Dark. So, like, now they're kind of crushing him with a new guy, which, I mean, maybe it gives Paige more credibility, but I did not think that this match made Paige look that great.
No, it went way too long. If they wanted to give Paige credibility, it would have been fine if he squashed him, and then post-match, what he actually did do was he continues to beat the crap out of Lee Johnson, and Dustin and QT Marshall just stands on the outside and watches it happen. Dustin Rhodes has to come out to make the save. Ethan Page rolls out of the ring, and QT Marshall just walks off out through the area where the cars drive in, usually if anybody's being delivered via vehicle. So really, this match could have gone 2 minutes, done the same post-match angle, and would have been 10 times more effective on building Ethan Page and continuing the storyline with QT Marshall, even if you have to destroy Lee Johnson, because I don't think Lee Johnson's current storyline gets us anywhere anyways. As far as Lee Johnson, it obviously moves QT Marshall and the Nightmare Family storyline, but that's why you needed Lee Johnson out there. But Lee Johnson could have gotten squashed in 2 minutes, and it would have been 10 times better.
Yeah, absolutely. And also, just as a side note, QT Marshall not making any friends out here. Like, I thought his beef was just with Dustin, but now he's abandoning Lee Johnson. So I'm like, bro, if you don't like your little Nightmare Family, just leave.
Well, remember after Lee Johnson's first win, he thanked everybody except QT Marshall.
Oh, that's a good point. That's a good point. I forgot about that. You know what? Props to him. I actually really like this. They just should have made it shorter.
Yes.
That's really funny. I do think that this match probably had time added because they did have so many non-wrestling segments that perhaps they felt like they needed a little bit more go, but the match actually suffered because of it.
Definitely. Then we had Alex Marvez, being the investigative reporter that he is, hunting down everybody. I love the gimmick because
Alex Marvez, investigative journalist.
See, he was horrible on commentary. He's horrible on most backstages, but him just being able to hunt down everybody is just, this is how you use Alex, because he was not being, I did not like what he was doing earlier. This is how to use him. He hunts down Hangman Page. Hangman Page has bought himself a brand new lawnmower with Matt Hardy's money, and he drives it up, and he says that he's bought a bunch of whiskey. I think he said 6 bottles, where if you watch BTE, I mentioned it on the Revolution show, but I'll mention it here, that Alex Reynolds on BTE, along with the rest of the Dark Order, stole Adam Page's credit card without Adam knowing. Alex Reynolds bought 16 barrels, not bottles, of whiskey on Adam Page's credit card, and the rest of the Dark Order bought random stuff on it as well, without knowing that the next thing that Page says here is that he gave away a lot of the money to the Jacksonville public school system, and then the Dark Order comes in, and John Silver is like, "Is there any more room on that?" He said, and Hangman's like, "Yeah, come on, everybody get on. Let's go get some ice cream." And everybody's on. 5 is about to step on, and they're all like, no, this thing has a weight limit. And 5 is left there, and they drive off to go get ice cream, leaving 5 behind.
I think I messaged in the Discord while this was happening live. This was so fantastic. Come on, like just give me more Hangman Page, Dark Order as official friends now. Everything about this was hilarious. The lawnmower, Adam Page is just happy, like genuinely happy, which is something we've not gotten a lot of in the past year or so. There's been a lot of downs for Adam Page, but honestly, this was great. He's got his mower, he's got his friends. All the friends jump on except for 5, because, well, I won't quote BTE, but you know what I'm referencing. Yes. 5 is out. And they say, you want to go, just like the most classic wholesome thing, you want to go get ice cream, and everyone's like, yeah, ice cream. And then they just drive off. And I don't know if you noticed, but the tractor almost tips over.
Yeah, almost flips backwards.
It was so funny. And Marvez just like watches them leave with this big smile on his face. And then they actually give 5 a little line, and 5 just like, it's all right, I'll meet you there, or something like that. It was really funny.
Which is funny, because it's not like it's that fast. He could just run after him.
Right. He literally could have run after him, but he just stood there and watched him drive away. But yeah, this is honestly like just comedy gold. I love this whole segment.
All right. Next up, we have Kenny Omega's side of the fizzle. And we have Tony. He's starting out up on the stage, and he's there to introduce Christian Cage. But then while he's starting to do that, we have Kenny Omega's dancers come out, and then we have Omega, Callis, and the Good Brothers come out, and they all go to the ring. And Tony's like,
"Can I pause you for a second?"
Yeah.
Once again, Tony looks like a huge nerd because he's out there. 2, he's getting interrupted, right? So like second interruption during an interview for Tony. Kind of looking, I mean, they're not his fault, but it looks dumb. But then he says, because you know the 80s dancers, girls with the brooms come out, and Tony says, "Is this for Christian Cage?"
Yeah, that was a dumb line. Don't you want
the product, you nerd? These are Kenny's girls. They come out, and it was Kenny's music. It was like obviously Kenny's music and obviously Kenny's girls. And he's like, "Is this for Christian?" I was like, oh. Come on, Tony.
Yeah, it would have been so much better if Tony knew what was going on. And do you watch Archer?
I do. I haven't seen the last couple seasons, but I've seen the first like 4 or 5 seasons.
Okay, but you know, since they're on FX, they can swear, but they can't say the F word. So they always say, "What the shit?" That should have been what Tony said. Be like, "Come on, what the shit?"
Like if he had a funnier or like better reaction, but he really played it off like he had no clue what was happening.
Yeah, that was kind of bummer.
It made him look stupid.
A little bummer there. Don gets to they all get to the ring. Don says, "Well, ladies and gentlemen, I'm sorry we are not going to hear from the brand new signee to AEW. And since you're new around here, we're just going to let you know we call the shots around here. I stand beside the best wrestler ever, and now the king of the deathmatch." Dawn talks about how the explosion was a win-win situation if it went off, or they took Jon Moxley's chance at the championship, and we took away Eddie Kingston's valiant act of sacrifice. If it blows up, then Moxley is no more, so that's a win. If it doesn't, then they look like a couple of idiots. And then Kenny talks about how it was funny seeing Eddie dry humping Moxley in the middle of the ring as sparklers went off. Kingston makes his way out and he gets into the ring. Dawn talks to him. He's like, I used to employ you at Impact, but every time you got close to success, you'd screwed it up, so that's why I had to fire you. And says that he's going to give Eddie 10 seconds to get out of the ring, and then there's the massive countdown timer up on the stage, just like at Revolution. All the heels are like freaking out. Kenny gets down on the ground and yells, "Quick, north-south position, Dawn, 69 me!" And I started laughing so hard. My wife had to come check on me to see if I was okay.
Honestly, this whole bit was so like the perfect heel reaction. Like it honestly was so perfect because he just says, if the ring was supposed to explode and didn't, then we've basically like baited you, right? And if it wasn't supposed to explode the whole time, it's like a win-win situation for the heels because they can play it either way, which I thought was really like a great way for them to take this in general.
Yep.
And then because I mean, obviously it's like we didn't want that to happen. We definitely wanted an explosion, but now that they're going to, basically have to turn something stupid into something creative, they took the best route with it I think they could have. And like you said, this whole thing was so funny from Kenny and Don. One, calling him King of the Death Match. And then two, the 69 me bit was just, I don't know, like all of this was just, again, comedy gold. And to be honest, like I know I mentioned earlier that I thought this show was like okay. The parts that were amazing about this show were all of the non-wrestling segments, honestly.
Mm-hmm. I know a lot of people would say if WWE did something like this, I would trash it. There's a difference because how this played off, it fits with the character so much more than a lot of the comedy over on WWE seems forced. Whereas this, it was one, probably off the top on Kenny for the most part, and two, it completely fits Kenny's completely unhinged personality that he has right now. And like he's completely unhinged. He thinks everything is a joke a lot of the time. And I think it just works for the characters involved instead of being shoehorned into something that doesn't.
Absolutely. I also thought the use of the timer from 10 to 0 was the funniest bit. Like that was the best part of it for me, was when the sound started going off and they're like, oh no, what's going to happen? And Kenny just jumps and gets on his back and he's like, quick, Don, what do you say? North-south
position.
That bit. And like, they're just making fun of him so bad. Like I loved this.
Then after the countdown goes off, Kenny lifts his head up and he's looking around. He's like, did I explode? And then Kenny stands up. He says, I almost passed out there. I had flashbacks to when I got detention in grade school. I felt woozy.
I forgot about that. That was even better.
He says, I felt woozy. And then Kenny stands up to Eddie and says, what are you here to accomplish? Are you going to hit the champ? Well, come on. And they stare at each other. Eddie does hit him. A brawl breaks out. Moxley comes out as well. They're just a bunch of brawling. The Good Brothers get taken out, thrown into barricades and into the stage. And Kenny is laid out in the ring and slowly getting up. And then Christian Cage's music hits. And he just walks out slowly, gets in the ring, has a stare down with Kenny. They're yapping at each other, but we can't hear what they're saying. Christian is taller than Kenny Omega.
Yep.
So that just like shows how small AEW's roster is, but since everybody is that height, it works. I had no idea that Christian was actually that tall.
Christian's actually pretty tall.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think he's shorter than Edge, but I also think Edge is like 6'4" or something like that. So you never really quite notice, but Christian's got to be well over 6 foot. He's probably 6'1", 6'2".
Oh, Jay mentioned that Christian's music also starts with a countdown. It would have been funny if something got played off of that too.
That's for sure.
So they're staring down and they're yapping at each other. Kenny takes a swing. Christian ducks it, tries to go for the unprettier. I'm curious what they're going to call it. I'm not sure if that's a trademarked name for the move or not. But
I don't.
But Dawn pulls Kenny out of the ring. Cage goes over to the title that's laying on the ground in the ring, and he holds it up. He puts it down, and he slowly walks off.
I really like that. I know that I have said in the past that, I don't think it's right for AEW to become the WWE retirement home, and I stand by that. But I also believe that Christian is deserving. Like I think I mentioned earlier during our Revolution review that, I was totally fine with this signing. I think some people were disappointed because it literally wasn't CM Punk, Brock, Ronda Rousey, Kurt Angle. I don't even know who, but like literally if it wasn't one of like a few people and wasn't a caliber that people thought was acceptable to them because of how AEW billed the signing, then they were going to be disappointed no matter what. Alternatively, I actually really liked the idea of it being Christian when he came out. And I think that Christian has cred in multiple companies as well, which if Christian didn't have the same run with TNA that he had, then I might actually like this a little bit less. But Christian is someone who's experienced in more than one company. So I think that it kind of sits better with me that he's here. And I like, in a sense, I like putting him right in the main event picture to start. I don't think he is going to become AEW champion, but I like him interacting with those players and seeing him, hold the belt. It was pretty cool. It was a pretty neat moment. Also, what's crazy about this is that this is a match we're probably going to have in the next month. You ready? We're going to have Kenny Omega, Carl Anderson, and Luke Gallows, or Doc Gallows, most likely, versus Jon Moxley, Eddie Kingston, and Christian Cage. If you had told me that, I don't know, a couple years ago, right? Before AEW started, and then you said, hey, one day their main event is going to be this, I'd have been like, no, that's impossible. Those people will never be in the same ring at the same time. I'm really thrilled, and I hope that this is going to turn into a 6-man match.
Yeah, that would be a cracker of the match. But, we've talked about plenty. There's been plenty of talk about the comparisons of TNA or being the WWE retirement home. But if you look at the guys that they've brought in from WWE, who wouldn't you have snagged?
That's true.
Like, we're talking, they snagged Brody Lee. There's no reason I would not have picked up Brody Lee. Miro, Chris Jericho. I mean, Cody basically started the company, so he doesn't really count. Jake Hager's maybe one that isn't high on the list. But yeah, Jon Moxley. Yeah, everybody. Matt Hardy, of course. If Matt Hardy was free, you're going to snag Matt Hardy.
Yeah, and he's an extremely creative person as well. So it's not like you have to sit there and be like, oh, we got to book all of these guys to be in the main title picture. You know what I mean? Like, you don't have to, you're not beholden once you sign them to put them anywhere near the top. If one, you don't want to, but two, I think a lot of these guys are coming here because they want to be more creative. Right. They want more creative control, and they want their ideas to be heard. And at a minimum, be able to vocalize them and have someone not say, well, no, you're actually reading this, soap opera script that we just read or that we just wrote. So, I think that's probably part of the attraction.
Yeah. Pac, Paul White, Sting. Of course, you're going to grab any of these guys if they're available. It would be stupid not to. So that's one of the things. It's like, okay, but they've grabbed the people that you actually would have. If you were running the company, you would have grabbed them too.
Yeah, absolutely. Also, I just looked up Christian Cage. He is billed at 6'1".
Okay, so
So I want to say Kenny's probably a couple of inches shorter.
Yeah, I think Kenny's 5'10".
Okay.
All right, we move on to the women's 6-lady match that was set up at Revolution, though it really didn't need it. It was kind of shoehorned in there to set this up. But anyways, it's Britt Baker, Maki Ito, Nyla Rose versus Thunder Rosa, Hikaru Shida, and Ryo Mitsunami. And I thought this was hilarious. So Britt Baker comes out, Nyla Rose comes out, Maki Ito is last. She's singing her entrance music. While she's doing that, the faces run out down to the ring and beat the crap out of Britt Baker, Rebel, and Nyla Rose. And Maki Ito just keeps singing like nothing is happening as her entire team is getting beaten up, which I thought was pretty funny.
Yeah, this was definitely my favorite part of this whole match. Spoiler alert, the match was fine, but the best part of this was her singing up there, and they cut her music and she kept singing the lyrics.
Yeah.
And she's up there singing while they're just getting beat down, and they're like, Maki Ito's still up here singing. And she's just doing her thing all in Japanese. It was great.
Shida eventually goes up onto the stage to fight her, and Maki Ito hit the most stupid mic shots ever. Like,
oh my God,
she tapped her. Bad. Oh my God, she just tapped her on the head with them. It was horrible.
Commentary literally was just like, it looks like she's booped her right on the head with the mic, and it literally looked like she was just going boop. It was so stupid.
Yeah, it was horrible. Eventually, Maki Ito and Shida make their way to the ring, and the match actually starts at this point. Then we have Rio getting tagged in, and she just... I cannot take her screwing around spots. They just take so damn long, and they're ridiculous. We have Rose and Rosa having their time together. Maki Ito hits the Kokeshi on Thunder Rosa. They get the heat on Thunder Rosa for a while. Mitsunami gets a hot tag. All the faces hit corner splashes on Britt, with Rio wanting Hikaru Shida to give her a suplex into the turnbuckle with Britt in the corner, which I thought was pretty funny. Thunder Rosa gets tagged in. They set up a super contrived dive spot to the group on the outside. That was just awful. They should have bailed on that spot the first time when she got up and realized everybody was out of position. She should have, at that point, when she got off the ropes, she should not have gone back to do it again. Vicky was on the outside, grabs Rosa's boot when she was getting into the ring. Maki Ito hits a swinging DDT. Rebel tries to get involved, but Rosa hits Ito with an air raid crash and gets the win. Afterwards, Britt Baker comes in, hits Thunder Rosa with a crutch, puts on the lockjaw. Vicky gets in the most ridiculous shots ever. They're the weakest boots to the thigh of Thunder Rosa. It looked really dumb. And then Vicky and Nyla look pretty chummy with Britt and Rebel.
Yes, they did. Honestly, this was just a little too disposable for me. Mm-hmm. I thought the fun part, my favorite part, was definitely the Maki Ito spot at the very beginning. But then the mic work, literally, get it, mic work. The mic shots looked really stupid. Yeah. I didn't like it at all. And then, it was really thrown together. I think you and I mentioned during Revolution review that it felt like they were just moving to this very quickly, and it was very obvious where they were going with it. And this was the predictable outcome, was just a standard 6-woman tag match. So I don't know. I also thought, did you notice that Nyla and Vicky have a team name? It was what was it? Something Vixens, Vicious Vixens or something. And I was like, oh gosh, I didn't need that in my life.
I usually skip their BTA segments because they're doing this that nun gimmick where they're trying to bilk people out of money, which is kind of funny. But the segment has gotten pretty old now that they've been doing it for months, so I just kind of skip those segments. So I'm not sure what they call themselves at this point.
Yeah, I'm with you.
But on that note, have you listened to Vicky on the AEW Unrestricted?
No, I have not. Generally, my podcast listening when it comes to wrestling is I don't listen to a lot of the current stuff. The only ones I really like to listen to are the Chris Van Vliet interviews, like the one with John Silver you mentioned last week. But in general, there's starting to become too many interview shows or podcasts for me to really keep up with. I think Renee is a great interviewer, and I think Oral Sessions is a great idea. And honestly, that is one that I'd like to listen to. But I don't know. It just feels like everyone's got a vlog, everyone's got an internet thing, and I can't really keep up with all of it. I don't have that much time in my life. So and not to discredit you if you've listened to all of them, but I definitely tend to miss quite a few of them. And I don't actually have an interest in listening to too many of them unless I'm recommended that they're fantastic. And again, that's part of why I listen to Chris Van Vliet, is because his are reliably very interesting, very cool. And a lot of people, I don't know if they feel open with him or what the deal is, but somehow you always tend to get a few really interesting tidbits about a wrestler's life or about their career when he's speaking with them. So that's one I tend to reliably watch. Otherwise, I've generally missed it.
Yeah, you should check out the one with Vicky. She tells some pretty good stories. She actually has some pretty good stories about Eddie as well. So she goes all the way back to her time with Eddie. So that was a good one. So I would recommend that one from Unrestricted. Okay. in the past, when I was employed, I'm currently not employed, but when I was employed, I was always, I always pretty much work by myself. So I always listen to podcasts all day long. So
that's smart.
I can bang through, and I listen at like 1.25 speed. So I can zip through most of the podcasts. So
that's another great tip.
Yeah. So if you can understand people when they're talking fast, and especially if you get a good podcast app that doesn't make it sound chunky and doesn't pitch and make sure it has pitch correction back to the correct pitch, I would definitely say 1.25 speed is good. 1.5 speed kind of pushes it for me. Though I know, like, listening back to this podcast, I know I talk really fast. So it's kind of hard listening to myself back because I know I talk a lot faster than a lot of other podcasters, but that's just the way it is. All right. So we had that. We go to a segment with Matt Hardy. He is in the bar area with a private party. He is eating grapes, which is an inside joke to him. If he is eating grapes, he has fallen off the wagon. So grapes are like a drug to him. This was laid out on BTE, which was pretty funny. So it's just a little inside joke. It wasn't made light of during this. Matt Hardy says he needs to bring in some more money. He has been saving all of his life. He does have enough money to make it through April 1st. It's like, really? I hope you have more money to make it through the next 20 days. Did you also see his tweet after Revolution to Rebby?
No, I don't think I did.
It said something along the lines of, we're going to have to cancel that putting in the miniature golf course and something else for the kids.
That's funny.
Go-kart track. I think it was go-kart track and miniature golf course for the kids in the backyard. I think that's what he said. We have to put that off until later. Anyways, he's talking about he has a new signing to the Hardy Empire, and it is Butcher, Blade, and Bunny. So I guess that takes care of the storyline between Eddie Kingston, Butcher, Blade, and Bunny, because I'm like, well, at this point, you can't turn Butcher, Blade, and Bunny babyface with Eddie Kingston, so what are they going to do? So that relationship has looked like it's dissolved, and Butcher and Blade and Bunny were mercenaries when they came into the company, so it would make sense that they go with the highest bidder. So I am okay with this, and we have Hardy putting together a faction of his own.
Yes, it definitely feels like we're getting a little bit more faction heavy in AEW, and obviously we will discuss, the results of this show in the main event, and in a few minutes here. But it definitely feels like we're starting to get multi-man groups, and to be honest, I do like the not just the focus on factions, but I like this specific choice. I think Butcher and Blade needed somewhere to go, and also I don't know if you noticed, but Private Party were in less brash colors than normal. They were wearing white and black, or black and white, and very similarly colored or matched to Butcher, Blade, and Bunny. So they actually kind of looked like a pretty formative unit. And I think I'm down with this. I really like that him adding more to the quote Hardy Empire, and also just another thought. Logistically it makes sense because he's out of money, right? So if he's signing people to a contract, that's how he makes money. Is he represents people? He's basically their agent, and as long as they're out there winning some matches, then hypothetically he's making some money back.
Yeah, and it's the one faction with a female in it.
Is it the only one?
I think so. No. Dark Order have, I guess, Tay and Anna Jay, but Anna Jay is injured, so.
Right.
And so I'm not sure if Tay is official member.
Right. She's loosely associated, but did you notice on Dark she had a match and her second was -1?
Yes, I saw that.
So I definitely think that they're going to be bringing her into the Dark Order.
Yes. So yeah, I guess we do have some factions with some ladies in them. I'm surprised no one has been added to the inner circle on the female side.
I agree. I do wish that there was someone being added to that faction, especially now. We'll talk about it in a minute, but I think there's an opportunity to add a female.
Yeah, and as far as that Jay just said, put Layla in Team Taz. I think that'd be pretty sweet.
Put Layla
Hirsch.
Ooh. That's not bad.
She would totally
I like
fit
that.
in. Yeah.
She totally fits. But Team Taz, I'll say Team Taz, man, they're getting kind of bloated. When they added Hook, I was like, well, how many people are in this? Like 5, 6 guys? If you include Taz, I think it's 5, right?
No,
so
it's Hook, Ricky, Cage, and Taz. It's only 4.
Powerhouse Hobbs
and Powerhouse Hobbs. So I guess 5. So
yeah.
four active with a leader.
I guess that's fine
because Taz doesn't actually do anything.
Yeah, that's true.
I would like to see. I'm hoping that Bunny does get back in the ring. She's good. I don't know why she hasn't been wrestling a ton. I've heard that she's just been dealing with some health issues, so that might be why she has not been more active. But I always liked Allie as a wrestler, so I guess we'll see.
Yeah, I mean, I do too. I think we forget sometimes that's Allie. Like, bring back Allie, please.
Yeah. Next up, we move to the main event match of the evening, but not the end of the show. It is Scorpio Sky getting his title match against Darby Allin after he won the Face of the Revolution ladder match on Sunday. This ended up at the end of it where I thought it was going, so good on them. I thought this was actually a really fun match too. They had some really innovative spots that I don't think I have ever seen. Darby offers a fist bump before they start, and Scorpio Sky obliges. So right when that happened, I'm like, oh man. But it came full circle for me. They start off, they lock up they do some lockups, some mat work. This match went a lot differently than I thought it was going to. Darby does the spot where he's out on the apron and the guy in the ring tries to go for like a shoulder block through the top and second rope, and the guy does like a flip over across the guy's back. He got hung up on the top rope. Like his head got caught between Scorpio Sky's back and the top rope, which then when he landed, which was supposed to happen, he was going to sell tweaking his ankle. But because he got caught up, his head got caught in the rope. I thought it was legit for a second there. I thought he was legit screwed because that just didn't go off correctly. I don't know about you. I don't know if you even noticed that he got caught.
I noticed a little bit, but I didn't think that they were going to make a big change because of it. But actually, I mean, I know we're not totally finished talking about the match, but this was my favorite match of the night. It definitely went differently than I expected, and I think Scorpio Sky is embracing a more heel move set. I guess he definitely wasn't quite as flippy and babyface as he normally is. So I actually thought that this match went in a really cool direction. Yeah,
aggressive style. At one point, Scorpio Sky just throws a right hook and drops Darby Allin.
That looked good, by the way.
Yeah.
That punch, I was like, I know it's probably a worked punch. It's not real, but like the angle and, Darby's selling of it looked just mean, man.
Darby makes a little bit of a comeback. He hits the flip over stunner for a 2 count, a running code red for a 2 count. Sky shoots back with a high boot, hits a waistlock, a couple waistlock German suplex, and then a release German into the turnbuckle that looked brutal. Sky looked like he was going to go for a springboard cutter, but Darby pushes his hands off, so Sky lands right on the apron and rolls to the outside. Darby goes for his high-speed running dive. Sky, mid-dive, pulls him right out of the air into a cutter on the floor. That was awesome.
So it looked really, really good when it first happened, and especially commentary sold it really well when they were like, "Oh, tope su!" Oh, like they really were like, "Look at that!" Like, and they almost undersold it, like in the right sort of way. Like at first they were like kind of stunned, and they were like, "Oh, whoa!" And they were like they were really surprised that it worked out that way. So I don't know, just the way commentary sold this really worked for me. But what didn't work was they showed the replay from another angle, and you could tell that he didn't quite hit all of it. He kind of like he didn't really get his arm around Darby's neck in true cutter fashion. So I mean, it still looked good, but the second angle that they showed, I thought gave it away a little bit.
Yeah. So hits the cutter on the floor. Back in the ring, Sky hits a brain buster for it was like a fisherman's brain buster for a 2 count. Darby goes up top, goes for a coffin drop on a standing Scorpio Sky. Scorpio Sky just pulls him out of midair straight into a power bomb. That was awesome. So we have these 2 spots that I don't think I've seen happen before. Sky lifts Darby up for the TKO, but Darby kind of rolls down him, rolls through, and gets a crucifix pin on, and gets the victory. And then I wrote, here comes the heel turn. Here comes the heel turn. Yep. And there it is. Scorpio Sky attacks Darby Allin after the match, puts on the heel hook. So he's working that ankle that Darby was limping on earlier. He lets it go, and he's like looking at his hands like, what have I done? What have I done? And then a huge smile comes across his face. And he is embracing the heel turn here.
Yes.
And then I also wrote, where the hell is Sting? This is where Sting should have come out to help Darby, not just like, what the heck?
Yeah, Sting's like, friendship with Darby is over. Now Tony Schiavone is my new best friend. No, he actually already was. But yeah, this was really, really good. This was my match of the night, and it was a great, post-match little angle. We really knew that he was turning heel, I think. I think it was, and not just because... not like Dirt Sheet knew, like we could tell, I think, from both the last week's Dynamite and Revolution. I think we really had an inkling that they were going this direction. I think SCU is really on the fritz. I think this is pretty much over. As soon as the Daniels and Kazarian storyline comes to a wrap, I think we're going to be done with SCU. Though I did think that they made the commentary made a great choice to highlight that Scorpio Sky was, one half of the first tag team champions in AEW. So they made sure you knew he was a credible threat here with Darby, which he really proved himself to be in the match. Darby just holding on for dear life, basically, especially even in the way that he got the pin. You could just tell that Scorpio was taking it to him the whole match. And I also thought it was cool that they mentioned during the tag team tournament, the initial tag team tournament to crown the first champs, that Scorpio Sky was kind of the one carrying the team. And not to say that Kazarian wasn't, pulling his weight, because Kazarian, I think, is wicked underrated. But obviously, AEW in kayfabe put the focus, I think, on Scorpio Sky. They kind of made him like, hey, he's the young, hot tag of the team, so to speak. Yeah. So I really thought that they, again, a little bit of a long-term detail that comes back into play and makes you really appreciate or contextualize something that they're showing right now. So I thought they made some really good choices in this match, and I like the heel turn. I'm excited to see where this goes. This is one of the things that I was most interested in from this coming out of the episode.
Yeah, I'm assuming that we're going to have some sort of backstage segment with SCU, so Kazarian, Daniels, and Sky talking about what the hell happened out there, that type of deal, to spin off Sky out of the, or like we talked about, or like I've said, maybe this is where we go, Sky turning on SCU, and that's how we get to Christopher Daniels' retirement angle. Originally I thought Kazarian was the one that was going to go heel and retire Daniels, but I think Sky doing it is probably the better choice.
I agree.
They go down the card for next week. So we have Mox and Eddie Kingston versus the Good Brothers. That should be a banger. Cody versus Penta also should be a banger. We have Bear Country and Jurassic Express versus Hardy, Private Party, Butcher, and Blade. That should actually be a fun one.
I like that a lot.
Jade in action, don't really care. She better show us something good, but I'm guessing it's probably just going to be a squash.
Yeah, most likely.
If they're not announcing her opponent, I'm guessing it's just going to be a squash. And then we have, for the first time ever, the ladies are closing out the show with a lights out match between Britt Baker and Thunder Rosa.
Yeah, bro, when they announced this, I was like, finally, we're getting this. This is going to be the blow-off match. It's lights out, unsanctioned, anything goes for the women, main eventing, and like the two right women. Like, I mean, maybe part of my hype for this is because Thunder Rosa, because as I say every episode, Thunder Rosa is probably my favorite female wrestler in the world right now. But dude, this is exciting. I'm very, very excited for next week's episode and a lights out match too. I think that is a stipulation that I think could be sparingly used, but I do like the idea. And actually, because they're doing this, it makes me happy. Remember, we thought that the main event a few weeks ago we thought was going to be lights out or some sort of unsanctioned match. I'm trying to remember what match that was. I thought it was going to be one, and they never did anything to say it was like unsanctioned. It was just shoot, what match was that? I'm trying to remember. But now, all I'm trying to say is that now, in retrospect, I'm kind of glad that they didn't do it because I think lights out should be used pretty sparingly. And this is obviously only the second time in the company's history. So, man, really, really excited.
It's actually the third, but it's the first on Dynamite. Because we had John Moxley versus Kenny Omega on the pay-per-view. Then we had a lights out match. Actually, no, it's like the fourth.
No, there was a lights out with on Dark, wasn't it? Pac and Joey Janela.
No, Kenny and Joey Janela. But I think Joey Janela versus Moxley way back when was also a lights out match. I think
that one I don't remember being
the hardcore match.
I definitely missed the one on Dark, but I didn't think that Omega Janela was.
Oh. Anyways, lights out match between the women, that is definitely a first. I am curious how far they go, and I'm curious if we're getting any blood out of this one. It could be strange.
That'd be kind of cool. I'd like that.
Post commercial, Tony mentions that Scorpio Sky left out of the heel tunnel.
Yeah. Absolutely.
So I like that they even took the time just to mention that to kind of
did you
solidify everything.
I was about to say I didn't like that. I didn't like that they said it. I just wish that we could have like the unspoken, heel tunnel versus face tunnel thing, and like people just know and get it. The fact that commentary mentioned it actually killed it a little bit.
Well, he didn't say heel tunnel. He said the tunnel that the inner circle came out of.
He left out of a different tunnel, and I'm like, I just like imagine this giant winking face, and I'm like, whatever. So I think that's a little silly. That's something I wish that they would just let the viewers figure out.
Yeah, I like that they had the detail, but they should have just had shown him leaving.
Okay, yeah, that's a good point.
That would have been better instead of just straight calling out. All right, I do not have very much notes on this one because I was just going to sit back and watch it because I knew it was going to go on for a long time, and I wasn't going to write 3 pages if I was just like transcribing it. So we're going to go here. We have the Inner Circle. It is time for the Inner Circle, or the as JR call it, the Inter Circle, the Inner Circle War Council. They all come out there. It is MJF, Jericho, and Santana and Ortiz. So, right, there was no Jake out there, correct? And no Wardlow.
No, there was Jake out there.
Jake was out there?
Yep, Jake, Santana, Ortiz, MJF, and Jericho.
Okay, so no Wardlow was out there. Obviously, Sammy was not out there. Right. Jericho says whenever an army needs to change their strategy in mid-war, they have a war council. He talks about saying, maybe we need to add somebody to this group. We need some big changes. MJF cuts in and says, you know what? I think we need to be letting some people go. And then Sammy Guevara's music hits. He comes out, tells Jericho, hey man, you got to see this. Dude, you got to see this. I got to show you something. And Jericho says, Sammy, I never wanted to see you again, blah blah blah, and Sammy's like, no, I have to show this to you, just watch. And it cuts to a video. Sammy sets up a hidden camera in the locker room, and it's sped up at high speed so it can show Santana Ortiz and Jake Hager just hanging out. Eventually MJF comes in, and basically it is MJF colluding with Santana Ortiz and Jake Hager that, I guess tonight we're going to have to do what needs to be done. Basically implying that Jericho needs to go. So once he sees that, MJF is like, well, Chris, didn't really want you to have to find out this way, but get him, boys. And all the Inner Circle start walking towards Jericho, and then they all turn around to MJF, and Jericho's like, "What, you think we're stupid? You think we don't talk to each other every day? Of course, we were just waiting for you to hang yourself, so I was the one who brought you into the Inner Circle. Now I'm the one to kick you out. You, MJF, are fired." And then, like, they start to back MJF into the corner, and MJF is like, no, just don't. I never wanted to take over the Inner Circle because I was busy building my own. The lights go out. When they come back on, standing behind the Inner Circle is Wardlow with FTR, Tully, and Shawn Spears, and they attack the Inner Circle. MJF just sits up on the turnbuckle watching it happen. Then they hold up Jericho, and MJF punches him with the diamond ring. He is bleeding from the forehead, and they carry him out up onto the stage, and Wardlow gives him a power bomb off the stage through some tables down on the ground, and we have a brand new faction coming out of it.
Yes. So, I mean, we have a faction is born, so to speak. I would say that this faction has been creepily being put together for a while. I think that, we've had a lot of allusions to something would happen, and obviously made more apparent on Wednesday. Was it this Wednesday or past the Wednesday before, when Shawn Spears joined kind of officially this FTR faction?
Yeah, that was last week.
So right. So we knew something was coming. Something was a brewing. We just didn't know who the fourth man would be. I think I speculated that I was really hoping it was going to be Nick Aldis, because that just feels cool to me, and I like Nick Aldis. However, the MJF, this surprised me, but was also like, you know what? 100%. Like, I'm behind this. I think this is a fantastic choice for them. And I think that, honestly, MJF, like, this makes MJF like the face. Like, this makes him like the leader, because FTR is like, they're good on promos for sure, but they're, your tag team essentially. Like, every good faction needs a good tag team. You need a couple singles guys. Shawn Spears, no offense to Shawn Spears, but Shawn Spears was never going to be the lead guy. And MJF, what a pick, honestly, and what an opportunity for him. This is the biggest that his spotlight has been in AEW, in my opinion. And I mean, he's always been consistently a star. Obviously, mixing it up with Jericho and with the Inner Circle is a big deal for him. But now he is center stage with a faction of some of the best wrestlers, in not just in the company, but in the world. I mean, I would say Shawn Spears is actually technically, like, technical wrestling. He's definitely one of the best guys they have. We don't get to see it too often. FTR are almost inarguably the best tag team in the world. I think they would only be really rivaled by the Young Bucks, or when Omega and Page were together, I think. And of course, a couple others in Japan that could probably, give them a run for their money. But I would say they're arguably the best team in the world. So, I mean, this is a real heavy-hitting faction now. And MJF just completely turned on the evil and the evil smile, evil charm, kind of. I mean, hitting Jericho in the ring. No one sells a good not just heel turn, but a good, like, betrayal like Chris Jericho. Chris Jericho has been betrayed so many times, and every time he makes it so great. His betrayal by Kevin Owens in WWE, and his most recent WWE run also comes to mind. Jericho just sells this so well, and I'm very, very excited to see where they go with this. I think that MJF being that lead man, another just great opportunity, honestly. My only question about all of this was, what was MJF's plan if the Inner Circle was on his side? Like, what if they didn't? There were so many swerves in this segment. I was just like, what if the whole group had beaten down Chris Jericho and Chris Jericho was out? Then was MJF just going to be like, oh, psych, I'm just going to beat you guys up too? Like, I don't understand what his plan was, and why he already had, his own 5 horsemen or whatever on backup already.
I'd assume if that was the case, then he would just have a bigger faction.
I guess so.
I don't have a problem with that logic that if Santana Ortiz and Jake Hager decided Sammy was never going to join, and so that would have been fine spinning Sammy and Jericho off as baby faces, and he just picks up a second tag team as well as Jake Hager. I don't see that as a problem logically.
Okay, I guess that makes sense. And also, I'll throw this out there. This was a fun little swerve also because Sammy Guevara is the one who did the recording.
Right.
You remember the segment where they were back in that same room and MJF took his cell phone out of his pocket and Sammy was like, oh, what are you going to record me or something? I actually thought this was a fun little callback because Sammy used that same sort of tactic on MJF. I thought that was fun.
Yeah, this is... I think this worked really well. I mean, it's hard to turn 5 guys babyface all in one shot, and I think they have, and obviously there's still a little bit more to go, but I think they have pretty much managed to turn the entire Inner Circle babyface, which is a hard thing to do, to turn an entire faction.
I think that they did, and I think they did it well, because honestly, like, just think about this. You've got this heel faction come in. Obviously, wherever MJF is, that's going to be like the most hated heel faction. But then they come out, they just domed Jack Swagger with this glass bottle, which I don't think it was real. Like, I think it was like sugar glass. But Jericho came up bloody, and they were definitely like messing around with the glass in the on the ring when, like, because they were down, like beating people down, and they're laying in the ring with all this glass. So I was really hoping that it wasn't like actual glass or actually sharp.
Have you ever tried to break a champagne bottle? They are hard as hell.
Okay, cool. I never have, so I wasn't sure.
Have you ever seen the videos? You know how they always smash a champagne bottle to christen a boat?
Yes,
and like people have to take like 10 whacks.
That's true, and I've heard it's bad luck as well to not get it on the first try. But yeah, I mean, honestly, they completely domed Jack Swagger. No, wow, that was weird. Jake Hager with the champagne bottle. They handcuffed Proud and Powerful, and then Tully hit him with the double Mindbreaker. So that was like brutal. And then Jericho just like slowly like trying to pull himself up on MJF, all bloody, and then MJF winding up and hitting him with the old diamond ring there. So like you're right, they did turn them, but like I thought they did it very well in that like everyone just got so much punishment. You were like, oh God, like these poor guys, they got brutalized. And I mean, Jericho even taking the powerbomb off the stage.
Yeah, I think it was very effective. I like how it went down. I forgot about the double pile driver, especially with their hands handcuffed behind their back. That was pretty brutal. So yeah, I think this is going to work out well. I mean, Jericho and Sammy were already... Well, Sammy had pretty much already turned babyface. I mean, if he went off on his own, he would have been a babyface. So at this point, he was babyface. Jericho was almost babyface anyways, because at this point...
Jericho was definitely babyface when MJF is sitting there in the corner and he's like, you don't think we talk to each other every day, you stupid son of a beep? And like I think when he said that, everyone in that place was like, yeah. So he like turned himself babyface just by acknowledging how tight of a group the Inner Circle is, and basically that they've known all along, not all along, but like at least for some time, that, you know, MJF was going to try something. That move, like, it's kind of nice because it's like a baby face that doesn't look like an idiot, which is something you unfortunately see a lot in WWE. These are baby faces now, you know, turning baby face. You're like, oh, okay, they're not complete morons. You know what I mean? Like, They actually talk to each other. They can see something coming. And I think that alone really just made people excited.
So I'm looking forward to see where they go next. Next week, we're probably going to have much more solidification of the Inner Circle. I mean, we could even go a week without the Inner Circle, given what they have planned for next week. Shoehorning them in might not even be worth it, so we might even take a week off from the Inner Circle. But yeah, we will see how it plays out. I don't have much more to say on that. So next week's looking like a banger, though, with Good Brothers versus Moxley Kingston, Cody versus Penta, Bear Country, Jurassic Express versus Hardy, Private Party, and Butcher and Blade, and then the lights out match between Baker and Rosa. I mean, that's a pretty big card, especially considering we just had a pay-per-view this week.
Yeah, totally agreed. I'm really excited for how that goes, especially. Again, not to reiterate too much, but that women's match, man, is going to be absolutely sick. And Cody and Pentagon is something that I am really like kind of low key excited for. Like, I know it's going to be good, but I'm really excited to see that as an undercard match. So like you said, I think our show next week could have a chance to be one of the better Dynamites.
I am actually, now I'm thinking about it, I'm curious if Cody versus Penta is to write Cody off of television, with Penta doing the arm breaker spot that he did on Lucha Underground to take out all of his opponents. I'm curious if that's to take Cody off so he can heal up his partially torn shoulder. I'm not sure how far along Brandy is, but this could be going to that to take Cody off of TV.
You know, I didn't think about the arm breaker spot. That's a good thought.
Anything else you want to talk about before we wrap it up here?
I don't think so, but I feel like there was just one little comment, maybe one little something that I missed. And it had to do with Christian. Shoot.
Well, let me real quick. Ratings went back down to kind of where they were, sitting at 743 this week. So that's down almost 200,000 viewers from the previous week. But rating only dropped from 0.33 to 0.32. So must have been a weird night for television. I'm reading that the South Park's vaccination special actually did 1.7 million viewers.
Yes, it did. And also NXT had for what it's worth, NXT had a pretty stacked show lined up for this past week. So I can understand if they probably lost a little bit over there, though they lost more than I would have expected post Revolution. I think maybe people were sticking around for the explanation from Mox and Eddie, but because I know NXT, I think had at least a couple title matches.
Yeah, but even NXT, they were down 1,000 from the previous week, so their rating didn't move at all.
Wow. Huh, that's interesting.
AEW Dark Elevation starts on Monday, so I'm curious how they structure that show. I hope it's just not an extension of Dark. I'm hoping they actually work some stuff out. And Jay is saying Riho versus Maki Ito is the main event of Dark Elevation, so I might have to check that out.
I think I will too. See if we get some more of those weird mic shots.
Did you figure out what you wanted to say about Christian?
No, I didn't.
Okay.
It was something small, something minor, but I don't remember exactly what it was. I just think he looked pretty good on Wednesday. I keep wanting to say tonight, but it was yesterday. I thought he looked really good. I thought that, setting up for the Unprettier was looking like he was really going to hit it, and that was going to be a lot of fun. So I'm actually kind of glad that they teased that. But I don't remember specifically what I was going to say. But we'll see how it all goes. I'm really excited for him. And like I said earlier, I am excited for where they've put him kind of in relation within AEW. They've kind of got him in that main event scene, at least for, the foreseeable future. I do think we're going to end up getting that cool Dream 6-man tag.
Yeah, and I don't have a problem with them putting Christian right into the title picture. I mean, he's a huge signing. You might as well do it. We don't know how long his body's going to hold out. We don't know what his health is like, even though I know he has been cleared and all that. So you might as well do it. And they did the same thing with Brody Lee, and Brody Lee came out perfectly fine on the other side. So Christian can recover the loss against Kenny Omega anyways. So
for sure,
I don't think it's going to be it's not a downside, and I think they should have a pretty good match because Christian's always been a really good worker anyway. So
yeah, absolutely, he can outwork everyone.
Yeah. All right. So as far as the podcast goes, I guess tomorrow I am going to do New Japan stuff. even if it might have to be solo. So that is what I'm going to be doing. Basically covering the anniversary show through at least night 4 of the New Japan Cup, possibly night 5. I think the English has been uploaded already for night 5, so I might be going anniversary show through night 5. I know it's like a week worth of material, but is what it is. So I might have to be going solo with that. I might not, to be determined. So I'll be doing that tomorrow night. So stay tuned for that. Subscribe to the YouTube channel or Twitch, and it'll let you know when I schedule that live stream. I'm probably going to go 7 o'clock probably tomorrow night. So there's that. Thanks everybody for listening and watching to the That's Wrestling podcast. If you have any comments, questions, feedback, you can send those to Eric at that'swrestling.com. You can join us in the Discord channel. Link is in the show notes. Also, if you want to head over to your favorite podcast app of choice, give us a review. It really helps us out in the search results. And there's one thing I always mention, but I totally spaced it. That's okay. We're always live over on YouTube and Twitch, so you can follow us over there. Oh, Twitter. Twitter at That's Wrestling 1 with the number 1 at the end. I did send a message to the guy who has the at That's Wrestling handle, but he doesn't allow DMs, so I had to at him, and it's been a dead account for 8 years now, so I'm probably not going to hear back from him. So maybe I'll see if I can find an email address, but even then, that's probably just going to bounce back. So it is what it is.
That's Wrestling 1. I think we'll be all right.
Yeah. I should probably just direct that'swrestling.com to like a link tree and just have it all there. But, whatever.
That's not a bad idea.
All right. So for Caleb Johnson, my name is Eric LaRoche. You've been watching and listening to That's Wrestling. See you later, guys.